How's it going? Welcome to another episode of the Chad Smith Podcast. Today is the first time we're going to be doing a nighttime edition. And earlier today, I was talking with Willie, and I'm like, you know what? We should put something together. So we
just
did.
For the full moon, in honor of the full moon. That's right. The moon is beautiful tonight. If no one's taking a chance to go look at the moon, don't stop watching us. But maybe carry your phone or your whole device out and look at the moon.
I didn't plan this. Is it really a full moon?
Oh man, it's like there's something special going on with this moon too. I forget what it is, but it's gorgeous.
And we've got a full moon right here on our background. I didn't even put that together, man.
I'm telling you.
Well, let's say hi to some people in the chat. Should probably do that, and
yeah.
Oh, let me get some mysterious background music. Yeah, guys, we just put this together 2 hours ago, literally. So
we really did. These are not lies. Chad hit me up and we were like, let's tell a story. And we're like, we each pick separate stories and we'll come in and tell each other's story and it'll be surprising. And not even planned, we ended up picking the exact same story.
Yep.
We thought it would be different because he was like, I'm going to go with a crime one or something like that or a mystery. And I was like, perfect. There's no way we're going to pick the same story.
How would you pick the same story? There's a million things that have happened here in Michigan. So you'd think that if you Google searched, let me turn that down. You'd think if you Google searched, mysterious Michigan stuff, there's no way that you'd pick the same thing. But we did.
I would have to say this is in my, if not favorite or, the most mysterious case out there. This is probably the number one. If I have to admit, this is probably the number one unsolved mystery, in my opinion, in Michigan. And we'll leave it up for you guys, obviously, once we share the story tonight, the tale to hear if you think it's even real, and what it might be, what it could have been. There's some other really great cases that are in Michigan as well that maybe we'll get around to, but this one's one of my favorites of all time. So
it's so weird, and it's still unsolved.
It is super unsolved. But maybe you tonight will solve it for us. Maybe Chatty Daddy and Bigwilly was all it needed. They were like, we send no guy, Chatty Daddy out there, private investigator with his Bigwilly.
Oh my God.
We're going to figure the case out.
He's out there with his Bigwilly.
Crack that case wide open. We're ready to do it.
I got to pull up the article because right now I just have your article. Let me pull mine over here.
Yeah. So if anybody doesn't know, while Chad's getting squared away here, Lake Michigan is an enigma, and there's so many fascinating things you can look up about it. I think Chad and I don't have the numbers pulled in front of me, but we were talking about it earlier. If I'm not mistaken, all the Great Lakes, all of them, account for more deaths and disappearances by plane, boat, and just people in general than all of the oceans combined, which is an absolutely astonishing number if you think about it.
Yeah, think of how much water is in just the lake of Michigan. The Lake of Michigan?
The Lake of Michigan
compared to all the ocean water. Just in volume of water alone, there's a lot more land mass or space to go sinking in an ocean. So
yeah,
that'd be crazy. That's crazy that there's a lot more disappearances and stuff in a lake than the ocean.
Well, and of the stuff that's disappeared, it's not like, okay, guys, it disappeared and we refound it. Like in the ocean, stuff disappears and it makes sense that we'd never find it again because, well, it's the freaking ocean. It's like the currents, there's everything going on here. But even with today's technology, there are still so many cases of ships that have gone missing that they have just never found in Lake Michigan. Ever.
This is really strange.
So,
and I believe Superior is actually more deadly than Michigan is. But maybe we'll get into Superior another day. Yeah. Hi, Sam. Good to see you.
Oh, my gosh. Sam's in the house.
Jeanette Sanchez is here. We got Oracles in the house. Cassie was asking if this is going to be weekly.
I don't know.
You never know, Cass. We might hit it big here. It's like winning the lottery. All right. So do you want to dig into,
yeah. Well, sure. Why not? So I would love to first, before we dig in right into the meat and taters of the... the main dish here. That's a little nugget for some of those out there. Some people know what that's about. I would like to just let people know a brief history and some of the strange things that have been going on for centuries, really, at the Great Lakes here. So, just as a little background here, small article, and I'll put it in the chat in a second here. So 10 things you didn't know about the Michigan Triangle. Although it's not as popular as the Bermuda Triangle, the Michigan Triangle has its own unique mysteries, oddities to discover. And let me just say this before we really jump into that. These triangles, guys, are everywhere. I would be willing to bet no matter where you live right now and where you're at, if you look into your local lore, there are going to be triangles. Or, and a lot of people talk about the ley lines and whatnot, but specifically triangles when it comes to bodies of water and land that things seem to go missing in. So look that up. It's always fun to know your local lore and history that way. The planet we live on is often referred to as the blue planet, as more than 70% of it is covered by water. It is believed that the water makes it possible for Earth to harbor life. On the other hand, some unusual things about the oceans and lakes confirm that they still have secrets waiting to be explored. Well, I think that wasn't a big leap there, right? I don't want to say they're breaking any cases wide open here, but we'll keep going. The Michigan Triangle is one of such example of mysteries hidden beneath the water. Let's see. So, although it is not as famous as, well, we already read that. We're going to go into this. Okay. So the first one, the location. The mysterious Michigan Triangle is part of the Great Lakes in North America, and the area resembles an acute triangle. Chad, I don't know, by the way, we may or may not have a picture of the triangle, and if not, that's okay.
I do,
if that's too far ahead.
Pull that up. Right here.
Yeah.
I just have to share screen.
No worries. So it has an acute triangle, right? To be precise, it covers Lake Michigan, which is the largest freshwater lake in the United States. Along the left side of Michigan's mitten, the first side of the triangle is formed by connecting to Ludington to Benton Harbor, Michigan. The second side spans from Benton Harbor to Manitowoc, Wisconsin. The triangle is completed by its third side that links Manitowoc back to Ludington. The bizarre occurrence in the area of the magnificent lake have been cause of curiosity among researchers for centuries. And as you can see from that picture, if I'm not mistaken, look at the size of it. Like, there's no way to really get into Illinois, right? Heading towards Chicago. And this was a massive trade route, and even to this day is still used heavily. Mm-hmm. So between Michigan, Wisconsin, and Illinois there's no way to really get around that sucker.
Nope.
You have to go through it.
Yeah, especially if you're coming from the ocean. I mean, you have to come from, like through Detroit and up that way around Michigan. So
that's true. That is true. But in another case that maybe we'll cover one time too, as we all know, there was the massive sighting that happened in the 90s. I think it was 90, whatever it was, 94, 90, whatever, something like that, when the O'Hara Airport there had all those UFOs that were caught on radar and stuff, which is really close to some of the Michigan Triangle stuff. So, I don't know. Just saying. All right. So, continuing on, though. The first abnormal incident was in 1679. The history of the abnormal incidents in the Michigan Triangle can be traced to the late 17th century. It was a time when the world was exploring new ways and routes for expanding trade. One of the largest sailing vessels of its time set out on its maiden voyage in 1679 to find a northwest passage to China and Japan. Now, hang on a second, because I know some of you are like, what the French toast? But here's the deal.
Brakes.
Pump the brakes. Chad, why don't you just tell them about the magnificent view that is Lake Michigan? Like, what does that feel like if you stood at Lake Michigan and you just stare out into it?
It does feel like you're at the ocean. The beach is a little bit, shorter because the tide doesn't go out or anything like that, but it does feel like you're at the ocean. I mean, it's really magnificent.
They really thought they found another ocean. I mean, you look at it, it's the entire width of Lake Michigan.
You can't see the other side, obviously.
Not even close. Not even close. So we might have heard Japan and China there, but trust me, it made sense at the time. Mm-hmm. All went well until the ship reached the Michigan Triangle, never to come back. Although it is not the only ship that might have been submerged, the horrifying part is that no wreckage of the ship nor any trace of the crew have ever been found to date. Yep. And Chad and I should have had this number pulled up for you guys. This is spitballing here. I think this was probably 4 years ago when I read on this one, but I want to say there's something like, I can't remember if it was 1,200 or 1,800 ships that have gone missing in Lake Michigan. And of those, there's over 300 or 400 that have never been found, which is just an absolutely ridiculous number. It doesn't make any sense. And again, that could be a little bit off, but I know it's a baffling number once you hear how many are still yet to be discovered. Because even though, yes, it's massive, lake, It's still a lake at the end of the day. You'd think something over the centuries would have started to wash up. Okay, so now this is another interesting one. And again, some of these are hearsay, and these are just quick little tidbits, and we're going to jump into the meat and potatoes here in a second, I promise you. This one was called The Fury of a Cloudless Sky. Who could have thought a clear and cloudless sky would cause harm to a ship? But that's what has to be expected while in Lake Michigan Triangle. In 1883, the crew of the wooden tugboat named Mary McLean that worked out of Chicago Harbor had a strange story to tell. They claimed to have witnessed mighty blocks of ice falling from the sky while in the lake for a whole, and get this guys, 30 minutes. It did not stop and was so powerful that it caused dents in the tug's wooden surface. The crew managed to save a large chunk of the ice in its gallery icebox and recounted the horrific ordeal at the harbor. So now, what do you think about that though, Chad? If you hear that, and guys, you in the chat as well, throw out your suggestions. That's what tonight's all about. We're just trying to solve this stuff. So there's got to be some scientific answer to that, some anomaly in the weather that perhaps could have caused this. I wish they would have given more detail on the size, the chunks of the ice.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is the article that I had said blocks, I think. Oh, no, wait. This does say chunks. For some reason, in my head, I heard blocks. But, chunks of ice. I mean, obviously, we've got, up here in Michigan, we do get hail every now and then, and sometimes it's golf ball size. But I guess if something does happen that size, I guess something could happen to create larger size, maybe bowling ball size chunks of ice. And if those are falling out of the sky and hitting stuff, they're going to break apart when they hit the ground. And then when you grab it off the ground, it might look like just a big chunk of ice. So who knows what was going on.
And I'd love to dig into some of these cases one time. Like the next one I'm going to mention here, which is the disappearance of the Thomas Hume. They could deserve really their own story, their own entire episode, we could say. While speculation surrounding the disappearance of Le Griffon was set to reach any consensus, another incident in the Michigan Triangle puzzled the area. The disappearance in 1891 of the Thomas Hume, a 3-masted schooner on its journey from Chicago to Muskegon. Muskegon's a beautiful place too, guys. It is still a topic of debate. Even a $300 reward to find some wreckage from the schooner went in vain, and this was in 1891. Chad, I don't know what the numbers on that are, but I'm going to guess they're in the thousands in current currency.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, after more than a century, and get this, in 2006, the wreckage of the Thomas Hume was discovered by a diver in the southern portion of Lake Michigan. The research continues to confirm its identity and the reason for its dramatic vanishing. So that took a long time. So they have found some, to be clear. That has happened.
And now what's in the news is since the water levels in so many areas of the country are dropping so low, there's other ships that are emerging out of the depths. So we might be
the depths below.
Yeah, a lot more history is being uncovered.
All right, I'm going to leave 2 more here, guys, and then we'll kind of let us get into our real subject for the night. So the real case. There is something I did not know about. Now, I knew about some of the stuff about ships disappear. We all know that. We know ships disappear. We know people disappear. We know planes disappear. We kind of know about that. But I did not know about this one. And this is this whole thing. It says, did you know that not just England, but America too has a Stonehenge? The noticeable difference is that America's is underwater, and it is spooky. Archaeologists have discovered a structure made of stones resembling a Stonehenge in a shallow segment of the lake in Michigan. There is also a boulder that features an image of a mastodon, a species that was extinct 10,000 years ago. The exact location is not revealed to the world, presumably as the research is still being conducted, and if it is linked with the secret of the peculiar Michigan Triangle. Moreover, it is still not known if the structure is man-made or naturally occurring. Now, there were some pictures. If you guys just type this up, and maybe you're watching and you put in Michigan Stonehenge, I'd be hard-pressed to think that it naturally occurred on its own. It literally is the same as the Stonehenge in Europe there, but just, smaller scale. And some of the images, I feel like they're grasping for a little bit, like they're kind of drawing it, but it's not normal. I'll give it that.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't look normal. Looks like at least the pillars are, they're
oh, yes, here we
uniform.
go. Mm-hmm. And there's one image that like kind of shows it from the top, and you can actually see it laid out that way, and that's a pretty unique one. That because like you're saying right there, you can see where it's like, okay, there's a clear, water growth is developed on this, but it doesn't quite give to scale when you're looking down on it. And then, like I said, some of the drawings, like there are more than just the mastodon drawing, but that definitely lets us know how deep is that. Far as the lake or where it was at in regards to the triangle. The triangle itself, if I remember, wasn't too far off the shore. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, the fact that there's light coming back from the sun is kind of a little evidence that it's not super deep, but.
Mm-hmm. And again, it's hard to know much detail about it because that evidence that even existed got leaked. And they have still yet to reveal, that I'm aware of at least, the precise location.
That's kind of sus.
I don't know, a little sus. Oh my gosh. Guys, by the way, oh my gosh, it's been so long since Bigwilly's been on screens. You all know the deal. If a Bigwilly's on the screen and you hear the word sus, you got to take a sip of whatever you're drinking tonight. That's the deal.
That's right.
But it is sus.
Today I'm drinking some Ghost Energy that could be sponsoring the show, but they're not.
Get on it, Ghost Energy.
Let us know, Ghost Energy. Let's go.
All right, now this is the last one. The strange disappearance of Captain George R. Donner. Another unexplained mystery about the Michigan Triangle is the disappearance of Captain George Donner, who was guiding the ship named O.M. McFarland in 1937. The ship was on its way to Port Washington, Wisconsin, when the captain went to his cabin, leaving a message to the crew members to awake him when they were near port. The crew followed the instruction and knocked on the captain's cabin, but received no response. Much to their surprise, the cabin was locked from the inside, and they had to break the door. However, the captain was nowhere to be found and vanished without trace. The frightened crew revealed that the ship was in the Michigan Triangle when the chilling incident occurred. And I did hear some other people go a little deeper on that one before. They did say it's possible that the man had, for whatever reason, decided to jump out his window and just drowned. But the window, if I'm not mistaken, was extremely tight. It was like what they say was like 12 by 14 or whatever the standard size was. So, I mean, it was doable for sure to get out the window, but it was like the only way, right? He obviously has never been found again. There's one last one. I'm going to read this one. I shouldn't even laugh because it's horrific, but I don't know why I even. I know the minute I read something, I tell you guys, I'm like laughing. This one's just really messed up, guys. So the last one here, and there's several of these, but the lost Northwest Orient Airlines flight 2501.
This one's weird.
Very weird. A deadly disaster again took place in the Michigan Triangle in 1950, but this time it was an aircraft. The Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 2501, with 55 passengers and 3 crew members, was on its way from New York to Minneapolis when the fatal event occurred. Just before the flight vanished from radar, the captain had requested to descend to the cruising altitude of 2,500 due to extreme unexpected turbulence. The permission could not be granted, and the flight continued at 3,500 feet over Lake Michigan. The flight never reached its destination, nor was the plane's wreckage ever found. The reason for the crash remains a mystery, and the only remains found were body fragments and light debris. Now,
so what in the world was that?
Okay, now here's where it gets really weird about this. When they talk about this, I heard another person do a whole tale on this one, like specifically this case. I don't remember the name of the beach, but a bunch of bodies washed up on this beach in Wisconsin, like on the weekend. Oh yeah, they were like chilling. Like, there was Marge out there with the beers, right? She had the beers,
Marge,
like the cheese curds, and there was just body parts rolling up on.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
come on, Timmy, we gotta get in the truck. There's a leg over here.
It was bad. And it was another one, and I don't remember the name of this particular flight, where the plane was undamaged. They found the plane, but they never found the bodies. And again, those bodies washed up on the shore, severely damaged. I mean, just limbs ripped apart, washing up on the beach. But the plane itself looked like it had crash landed, and that had deployed the what do you call those? The slides, right? When the video, the things we never. The one slide you never want to go down and like. That's right. But those slides, and they didn't have really any damage to the plane itself, but the people had the severe damage. So just to set the scene a little bit, that's some of Lake Michigan, and there's guys countless stories in this.
I don't want to get too morbid with it, but do you think that the reason why the bodies washed up on shore in Michigan is because we don't have sharks? And do you think the same thing wouldn't be the same in the ocean?
I would agree. I mean, I know we do have fish that we'll eat. Obviously, we don't like. I mean, there's some sturgeon and stuff, pike and different things that would definitely be able to be more than capable of I think eating away a little bit. But we don't have anything that would just make things disappear like they do in the ocean. It's just gone. So,
I mean, Jimmy Hoffa's pretty much gone. So
true.
I have to cover him. He's Michigan dude too. I have to cover him one day.
Ooh, that would be a good one. But yeah, that's just to let you guys know. And like I said, there are literally endless cases you can look up of just strange occurrences, and this particular triangle and one portion of it kind of occurs with what we're going to be talking about tonight, and to me might be the greatest mystery of that entire area. To me, I'm sorry, I have a love affair with this one. It's one of my favorites.
It's just so crazy that we picked the same.
It is really
the same story here.
Right, I like his Chad was like, I'm gonna make sure I'm not on the same brainwave. He's like, I'm gonna purposely pick something that doesn't match your energy.
Yeah, I remember saying that. Now I was like, listen, I'm gonna pick up on your energy, and I'm gonna make sure that our brains are not linked up.
You linked in is what happened.
We linked up. We did. Yeah. Hey now, how's it going, Anthony? Good to see you.
Anthony,
Anthony's in the house. Yeah, so we definitely picked the same story here.
We did.
But it's a good one. So let me see. I'm pull up this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do you pronounce his name? Kubacki?
Kubacki. Yep, Steven Kubacki.
Cool. Steven.
I had a very hard time the very first time I read it, pronouncing it and even not laughing. I was like, but yeah, Steven Kubacki. That is the man. Right there.
All right, guys. So let's start off. Well, he's still
we can't
around.
say too much.
He's still around, I think.
Well, yeah. If you guys know in the chat,
be created or destroyed. All right, one of the strangest missing persons cases ever recorded in the United States is that of Steven Kubacki. He went missing for 15 months without a trace in 1978. It is then claimed that he woke up in a field wearing strange clothes with no memory of the previous 15 months. Which is insane. Like, we've heard of this kind of thing happening before with people with amnesia.
Well, what do you even do if you're like the officer or eyes were going to tell a story of it, or anybody who takes this? Like, the first person you had to tell that to. What did they do? You know what I mean?
Oh, like if you're the person that was missing?
I'm saying the person listening to him say that. Because, I mean, even with the Travis Walton case, he was gone for, what, 4 days, 5 days, something like that? 5 days? I should know that. But anyways, he was gone for a couple days and couldn't remember. And they were like, you're crazy. These people tried to kill you. And told the story for him, let alone be like, yeah, it's been 15 months and I don't know. I don't know, guys.
And I am not paying taxes on that 15 months. Let me tell you right now. I'm not paying back taxes.
He was in college, too. I believe he attended Hope College, so
yeah, he probably German.
He's probably was like, I'm not going to pay. I'm not going to pay.
I'm not paying. I wasn't there. Damn it.
Dang it. All right. All right.
All right, so in February 1978, Steven was a student at the time learning German. He went missing in the Michigan area known as the Lake Michigan Triangle that we were previously just talking about. He was missing for 15 months. The triangle has accounted for numerous mysterious events beginning in 1891 when a schooner named Thomas Hume set off across Lake Michigan for lumber. So, yeah, that was the story that Willie just covered.
Mm-hmm.
Before he went missing, Steven said he was going to go skiing. I think I have another slide for that. Oh, yeah, there's the Michigan Triangle right there.
Heck yeah.
Before he went missing, he was going to go skiing by himself on a skiing trip. And he was reported missing by his family. Let's see. Do you have anything to fill in the gaps with this?
Yeah, if you was to say you're okay, because I don't want to jump in with anywhere.
Yeah, because I know your article is a little bit more descriptive.
That's okay. So, far as he was attending Hope College, he was a cross-country skier, so he was an avid outdoorsman. This isn't somebody who wasn't accustomed to the environment or the harsh at this time. I can't remember the exact date. Was it February or something at the time?
February.
You get some rough winds off Lake Michigan there, but there was a trail. And he told his roommate, hey, I'm going to be going out. I can't remember if it was a Friday or Saturday night, what it was. But that was how he was going to go and relax and go do this cross-country ski. Basically, and he was supposed to be going home on Monday to check in with his family. He never showed up. So they actually, at that point, was when they called the college, contacted his roommate, who's like, oh, I just thought that maybe we missed each other, and he just was home with his family over the weekend, right?
Yeah.
That's when things were reported, and I mean, they brought in dogs and everything, and we'll see how much detail gets about that. But if they don't talk about it, I'll let you a little more. So yeah, he was out on the trail.
Yeah, like this article, I guess, is just like a little synopsis or whatever you want to call it.
Synopsis? Okay.
Synopsis. Because this other one that you sent me, it goes into a lot more...
yeah, if you want to read from that one should give you...
Kubacki was also known to be an enthusiastic outdoorsman who had previously climbed mountains while studying abroad in Europe. He had been cross-country skiing in the same area bordering Lake Michigan before. The trip that weekend was not particularly unusual, but the rest of the story is. So let's see. After that, it gets into like kind of the part where he gets found or where he reappears.
Okay, so before we go to that, the only thing I will mention about it, and this is what to me is fascinating. Okay, so he goes missing. They file a normal, at the time, wasn't a complete missing persons report. It was just, I can't remember what the step before that is called, but it's basically, hey, we're looking for him. And they
guys,
set out like,
we can't find this guy, so if you see him, we're over here.
We're over here. They started with I think it was 2 officers, a patrol car, basically, and they went out and they found he was on a trail which does run along the side of Lake Michigan where he was at, and for whatever reason, his skis, right, as you can see right there, he stuck both of his poles in the ground. He stepped out of his skis and walked about 50 yards out into the ice right on Lake Michigan, and then the footprints stopped. Yep. That was it. And so they were like, all right, something's going on here. So bring in the dogs.
Yeah, what I read, it said that they immediately were just like, hey, this guy obviously just fell in the water and broke through the ice. And
well, that's what you're correct. They initially did is they kind of were, politely, softly pushing back the snow to make sure that, he had not broken through. But in February in Michigan, that's usually pretty solid at that point. But that was their first thought. They highly searched the area right there by his ski slopes, if I'm not mistaken. They didn't take pictures the first time, which is going to be important in a second here because of something that happens in a minute. But they didn't take pictures of it initially, but that was like their base spot to start. They had dogs search all day long. The dogs followed the trail to several locations, one being out there on the water initially, and then they circled a couple other times, but they would always come back and just sit by his skis. Like that's where they would just sit down.
Yeah.
And usually when a dog just sits down, if anybody knows anything about that, they when they sit down, they've lost the scent, essentially. They've lost the trail.
Yep.
And what was really weird is at the end of the day, they were getting ready to wrap up. Out of the blue, his backpack and his coat were sitting by his skis. Which was and they took pictures of that because they were all like tripping for a second. We're like, well, did we miss this? Did somebody? And because they didn't take pictures the very first time, they were like, crap, it's basically us saying this. And now there were several people that are searching, but they were flabbergasted by that. Had basically his wallet, if I remember correctly, his wallet, all the basic things you would have. Basically, that was all you had back in the 70s. You weren't carrying your cell phone and everything. It was just your little wallet. That was it.
His iPad was sitting there.
But yeah, he went missing, and I believe they looked for him a couple times. If I'm not mistaken, there was quite a storm that swirled up near the time. That's what kind of caused them to shut the initial. I mean, this is classic 411 kind of stuff where somebody goes missing and then a storm rolls in kind of deal.
Yeah.
They shut it down and they went back out a couple more times, but just nothing ever came of it. And I forget how long you have to go before you can declare somebody dead. I want to say is it 6 months or 4 years? What is the timeline before you can officially make somebody dead?
That was brought up during the Carol Baskins thing, so I can't remember. Was it like 2 years?
There's a timeline on it. But yeah, they basically told his parents. I mean, they if I'm not mistaken, in the official police report, they wrote him up as, obviously deceased, and that they couldn't officially file a death certificate until that timeline, but they wrote him as they thought he just succumbed to the environment. And felt one of the three, they could not find a cracked spot in the ice, was that, hey, he fell through that ice.
Yep.
Because that was just the most plausible thing.
Yeah, because the footprints were one way.
One way.
They walked out, and there was no returning footprints. So, I mean, how do you explain that? Explain that.
That's how he became Batman. My name used to be Steven Kubacki. But now I'm Batman.
Just try to explain that, why don't you? We got Spooky Morales in the house and Sonny Conway. So how's it going, guys?
Oh my
Thanks for
gosh.
hanging out with us.
They didn't invite us.
Aw, they didn't invite us.
Hey now.
We're letting you guys rest. We're just resting.
Rest up. Rest easy.
I know Sonny said that he wasn't feeling too good, so I didn't want to put too much pressure on the boys.
And them boys.
But you guys know you're always welcome to hang out with us.
Heck yeah.
So that's where we left off, with them finding the footprints and no explanation after that.
Yeah.
So then
his family held a funeral and everything. I don't remember how many months later, but I mean they had a funeral. They buried with obviously no body, but they had a funeral and buried their son, what they thought was their son, or I shouldn't say thought, but what would have been their son. They had a full-on funeral. Until 15 months later, something happened.
On May 5th, actually, my birthday, 10 years exactly to the day that I was born, May 5th, 1979. Well over a year after he went missing, Kubacki woke up in a grassy knoll in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. Yes, Massachusetts. 700 miles due east from where he had vanished. You can draw a near perfect straight line between them on a map. It was a Saturday night. Kubacki had no memory of the previous 14 and a half months and said he didn't immediately realize how much time had passed until he bought a newspaper and saw the date. He found his way to an aunt's house in Great Barrington, about 20 miles from Pittsfield. From there, he was reunited with the rest of his family in South Deerfield. Pretty insane. 700 miles.
Yeah, I mean, his dad said when he knocked on the door, I mean, because he didn't even get like a phone call initially. I mean, he, basically the first time he saw his son was his son knocking on the door and being dropped off. I think I might be mistaken. There might be a picture. I'll see if I can find it of when he initially because I don't think they get into this a whole lot as far as some of the. I guess we don't have that on there. Never mind. I lied to you. Never mind, guys.
Jeez, you liar.
Such a liar.
Walt says, do the next PM chat with Spooky, then the next PM chat with Sonny. Just rinse and repeat. Oh, what's going on, Roach? Good to see you, man. So many fun people in the chat tonight. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Oh, here we go. And the crazy thing was, this was the photo of him reunited with his dad. Obviously, I mean, it was taken for the picture and everything, but embraces his father after returning since he was reported missing February 20th, 1978. But yeah, I mean, I just can't imagine as a father, somebody who has children, like I can't imagine, how that would have.
And it doesn't say anything about if he was like skin and bones. Was he eating in that 15 months? Did he show up?
This is the mysterious part of it, and we're definitely going to go break it all down with you guys too, going back into it afterwards. Is this Balthazar? It kind of, I don't know, pop it up again, doesn't it? Just the hair.
I thought it looked like him too with the glasses.
Just a little bit.
I mean, even the jawline kind of looks like Balthazar.
Let's zoom in here a little bit.
Oh my god, I think we have a conspiracy.
Conspiracy within the conspiracy.
That's what we do here.
But yeah, and we'll continue on obviously with it. But the weird thing about this whole case is that there was basically one coverage of the story, and that's it. There's that original newspaper clipping. I think he might have done one half kind of an interview, but they didn't have all the details at the time really, but not much was really gone into. So,
the search team scouted the area. Ski poles were found. Footprints on the ice, backpack later found. Okay, well, we covered all that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot about that. I was to say, and
I did too.
To go even further with it, this was actually a photo. I don't know if it'll pop it up there or not, but this was a photo of they took a helicopter out. I mean, it wasn't like this is not like they were not searching for this guy. They went all out for him, and I mistakenly earlier said 50 yards. He was 200 yards out into the ice, so he was basically just shy of 2 football fields out onto the ice. I mean, the ice is pretty thick at that point.
Which is just weird. Like, if he's out skiing on a ski trip, there's nothing out there in the water to ski on.
No. I mean, he literally just stuck his poles down, walked out into, 200 yards out on the ice. As Spooky is saying, it is sus. Yes, it is, brother. Very sus.
Go get another drink.
I'm gonna
I'll pretend.
That's right. But, anyways, I interrupted you. So he did wake up. He got woke. He woke up, and he was freaking... and like I said, he did not realize himself. So I'm just wondering, like, if anybody's ever had, I have not, luckily, knock on wood, that I'm aware of, had a concussion strong enough to where I didn't remember things. But I've had friends who have had that happen, where they got injured in a game or something. Like, they remember showing up to the game, but they don't remember anything else. Mm-hmm. So anybody who's experienced even a little bit of amnesia, I think maybe could kind of relate to him. I had one surgery when I was younger, and it was weird because I immediately, upon starting to come to, knew what had happened. I didn't remember the time, but I knew I was in a hospital. I knew I was there for surgery the day, so it wasn't like I had lost memory. Yeah. I can't imagine, what do you think his initial thoughts were just waking up, first of all? I mean, just laying in a cornfield on a Saturday night. Saturday night with the boys.
That's another thing, too. Let's get into what he was wearing, because that's the thing, is he didn't recognize anything that he had on. I mean, It's not like he woke up and was like back to where he was when he left off. He woke up and had no idea what was going on. It says after he reemerged, Kubacki told reporters that he had found himself wearing clothes he didn't recognize as his own and had a backpack filled with maps and hitchhiking signs suggesting that he had traveled widely from Sacramento to San Francisco, Reno, Chicago, and Utah.
They were actually highlighted on that map. I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you, but they were highlighted on the map, circled.
Oh, were they really? Mm-hmm. So, like, there were destinations that he had to go to.
It seemed that way. One could presume.
Very strange.
Yep.
He also had $40 in cash, some new glasses, some new kicks, a T-shirt from a marathon in Wisconsin. He was out
running the marathon.
Running the marathons. What were we referring to? I can't remember.
Oh, earlier I said I felt like, because it said because his direct quote right after that is he said, I believe his direct quote to the reporters was something like, I feel like I've been on a long journey. What was the direct quote? I think it's highlighted there.
I feel like I've done a lot of running.
That's what it was.
Running.
That's what reminded me of Forrest Gump. I think I'll go home now. I mean, I don't think
I'll just go home now.
To me, that's almost the most fascinating thing not only the fact that he woke up 700 miles away, but these are really the only clues, guys, that we have to go on. He has these $40 in cash. He has clothing on that is not his. He has these, new sneakers, new pair of glasses, and he has this obscure map that has been marked with these locations. And the shirt he was wearing, like Chad has already said, was a marathon for basically like if you're running a marathon in Wisconsin. Yeah. So I remember hearing somebody talking about that one time. They're like, "Can we get footage from that marathon to see if he was like floating across the line or something with his eyes rolled back, just like hovering, demon possessed wise?" Or just
and another thing too. Yes, Jake, I have seen Forrest Gump. Isn't that amazing? A movie I've seen. But another thing too is like, was he a runner before all this, or was like something just ignited in his brain? Like, I need to run.
I mean, he did say he climbed mountains. He was a pretty avid, he was a fit person. He was very active, but I don't know about running marathons.
It's just weird, man.
It's a difference.
How do you go from living a certain lifestyle and then all of a sudden just traveling all over the country, not knowing who you are, and running marathons?
Yeah. Well, and then the fact that how confusing do you think it was for him? I mean... And I can't remember, I think it might even be after it says, I feel like he did a lot of running. I don't remember if he says when he did the interview or how long after, but that I'm aware of, that's like one of the only interviews he really did, if I'm not mistaken.
Spooky's messing with me. Says Jake, test him. What is like a box of chocolates? Life, baby. Life is like a box of chocolates.
That's right.
He says, personal quote from him. I feel like I've done a lot of running, he said in an interview the week that he reappeared. His memory right up until his disappearance remained intact. He said that the last thing he remembered was feeling cold and scared of being lost in the frozen darkness. So he got lost somehow, he says.
But why? The thing that doesn't make sense to me in that, and I am not very familiar with like cross-country skiing, but when there's trails, there's generalized like, I don't know what you call them, flag poles and stuff that indicate when you're on a path or on either side. So you would think he could have just turned around and traced his ski path back. Why jump out of your skis, take your ski poles, stick them in the ground, and then walk 200 yards onto the lake?
That is the fun thing about snow.
Walk the right direction.
Yeah, you always have tracks to go back.
Mm-hmm.
The only other thing is his tracks wouldn't have been covered up if they still saw him on the lake when they got there. So
yeah.
He says Kubacki told a reporter that he believed he had blacked out and that was caused by exhaustion and exposure, and he said that he needed to see a medical doctor for a physical, but he was not going to see a psychiatrist. Kubacki insisted that he was in a healthy frame of mind when he set off for the skiing trip, and still was. Well,
hey, man,
sir,
I'm
where
not
have
crazy.
you been for the last 15 months? I don't know, but I'm not crazy.
I mean, but let's put it in the time and era. I know it's a little funny now. Maybe, well, even now we'd probably think they were crazy. Come on. As much as we all are like, this stuff's strange. Somebody comes up and was like, yeah, I can't remember a single thing for the past 15 months. I'd be like, ooh, okay, well, I want to believe you. I want to believe you, but it's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow. So I mean, even more so back in the 70s. I mean, it's 78, right? I think it reappeared in 79 or something like that. So this is the late 70s, man. This wasn't like,
yeah, man.
People weren't cool with it, man. They were like, no, man, that guy's
not paying taxes, man.
No.
I haven't paid my taxes today for some reason.
Well,
another quote from him. My father was going to sign over the house to me. I had 3 courses at school and no trouble. I left a romance in Germany. Jeez. There was no trouble with girls. I had a job lined up with the Holland Central newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
So he had, his life was going good. No reason to run off and live out in the wilderness.
Well, I mean, I'll let you finish up. I'll say there might be a couple of things we'll go back over the story, but go ahead.
Kubacki didn't take that job, but he had been awarded a bachelor's degree in absentia from Hope College the year before, when he was feared, but never declared dead. Apparently, even the detectives who investigated his disappearance had doubts about the drowning theory. Mm-hmm. They sent his dental records to Chicago to see if Kubacki might be among the serial killer John Wayne Gacy's unidentified victims.
Uh-huh.
Really?
Yeah.
Today, Kubacki remains alive and well in the Pacific Northwest, working as a psychologist. The dude's still just as healthy as you and I are.
Yeah.
After this crazy. Do you think people still bother him about it? Asking questions?
He's declined every. I remember looking. Oh God, this was 4 years ago, give or take, when I looked this up the last time. I do believe somebody. I can't remember if it was the Inquirer or who it was. There was a newspaper that offered him a large sum of money just to do an interview, and he denied it. He said that wasn't the important thing. As you can see on the screen here, he's got a master in linguistics now, or earned his PhD and some other stuff like that. But that's been his main focus. He doesn't believe that is his defining character in his existence.
It says he wrote a book called Meta Mathematical Foundations of Existence.
Seems like somebody went through something.
Lord. Godil, Quantum, God, and Beyond. For decades, he has refused to speak about his disappearance with reporters. He has ignored many attempts to reach him. Kubacki's ex-wife told me unequivocally, well, not me, but that she would not be speaking about it. His parents, who reportedly spent thousands of dollars on private investigators after he went missing, refused to believe that their son had died. They have since passed away.
Yeah. And that
likes the sanity, that's for sure.
That was the other thing, as I was to say, and I'm glad that I mentioned that, is that it wasn't like people weren't. I mean, the police did stop, obviously, but his parents had hired those private investigators, and this is my thing. If they hire these private investigators, granted, he was, it looks like, at least in the map, all over the place, but how didn't the guy get, I know it was easier back in the 70s, all right, I get that, to just disappear, really disappear. But you'd think, at some point, somewhere, that somebody would have recognized him or mentioned something. I mean, did the guy walk or just hitchhike every single where? I mean, right. I don't know.
Well, I can also relate it kind of to like the Bob Lazar story, where he adamantly does not like going on to shows and talking about it, because he keeps, every time he goes on a show, it gets like brought back to the light, and he just keeps getting harassed over and over. So I'm sure people that have stuff like that happen to them and they live through it, and it's a lifelong thing that they just live with it forever. And people finally hear about it that have never heard about it before, and they just want to keep plowing them with questions.
Yeah, that's so sweetly morbid Bear was saying. I could only imagine talking about it with people who don't understand would just not be beneficial. Mm-hmm. It's true.
Yeah, there's nothing you can gain out of it, really. So I'm sure people that go through that kind of stuff would rather just not even talk about it at all, because there's nothing to gain from it.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Me too. I'm Team Lazar. Oh, thanks, Cassie. Donations are greatly appreciated, but never expected. You know what I'm saying? Thanks.
Oh, thank you, Cassie. I don't remember if there was the last little bit on that article or not. I wasn't keeping up with you. I apologize. I don't know if there was anything left.
A little bit.
Okay.
Let's see.
Because there's some things I want to go back into and ask your guys' theories and hypothesis in the chat, as well as yours, Chad, before we, put a pin in this one.
Yeah. All right. So much smaller in area than the better-known Bermuda Triangle, the Lake Michigan Triangle has been the site of numerous unexplained air disasters, shipwrecks, and vanishings dating back centuries. There are stories of ghost ships, ghost planes, heavily corroborated, that's a tough one, UFO sightings, and one particularly spine-chilling tale about a competitive sailing crew that passed through what sounds like a vortex during a practice run on a calm, early summer evening. After a sudden, dramatic fall of fog and wind filling the mainsail from two opposing directions, 3 wooden ships took on a life of their own and performed synchronized 360-degree turns with no one steering. There's more to that story, and it happened a few months after Kubacki vanished, when he was still missing. Kubacki told reporters in 1979 that he was going to try and retrace his steps to piece together where he had been when he was gone. Did he? And did he find something he wished he hadn't? Or did he not, because it wasn't necessary? So yeah, that's kind of like pointing towards maybe he did retrace his steps and find something that he doesn't want to get out there.
Yeah, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, that was the end of that. Or that wraps it. Okay. So several things. Let's just do hot takes before we even dig back into it. Hot takes here. Let's get some hot takes from the chat. Even with scale 1 to 10, guys. Do you believe that this happened? We know that this happened to him, but do you believe? And you can put your reason what you think it was. Was it the classic UFO abduction? Was it aliens? Did the man just want to simply disappear and just needed a break? Because the one thing I will add, and we'll break into this a little bit. Remember how it mentioned that girlfriend, that relationship he broke off? He was pretty stressed about some of his finals coming up, and he did have an internship, but he had confessed to his roommate that he wasn't positive he wanted to take it, because now that the relationship with his girlfriend had ended, he didn't know if he wanted to go all to Europe. So his roommate said he had been extremely stressed, and some have said that Kubacki faked this whole thing and just disappeared and needed a break. But then even if he did, why fake? I mean, because let's not take it off the table. As much as I want to believe the guy, and I do believe him, he could legitimately just be lying to us. We can't take that off the table.
100%, yeah.
But why just wake up in a field with I guess he was down to his final $40, I guess. I don't know what the
well, I mean, the thing is if you look at it that way, I mean, the whole thing where he woke up in a field, that's all him telling that. So
Yeah.
The whole if you really take a step back and look at it, it could just be that he wanted a year's vacation just to get away from. And the thing is you're talking 1979. It's not like we had the internet where you could, take a picture of somebody's face and scan the internet or something and do missing persons searches that way. We didn't have instantaneous communication. If there was like a missing persons thing, that would have to be on like national news or something like that. And I don't know if anything like this made it to national news.
Yeah, I've never, that I'm aware of, seen that. I know it was obviously pretty big in Michigan, but at the time, the big case coming out of Michigan was, what was that killer's name? Edgar Casey. Mm-hmm. I believe that was kind of what was getting a lot of the attention from the state of Michigan at the time. So, and to be honest, let's face this too, law enforcement usually wants to solve problems, not have problems that can be solved. So if you can't solve a problem, you're not going to really promote that either. Mm-hmm. Now, one other weird thing, and I forgot about this tidbit, super important tidbit. Remember how you read that the law enforcement officers, thank you, Carol, for being here, said that they weren't confident or didn't feel comfortable putting him going underneath the ice and drowning? There was they're from, what do you call that? Whoever runs your county, like not your sheriff, but kind of like your sheriff, I guess you could say, told them that's what you're putting down. Put down, they were told to basically forge or falsify. In a sense, it's not complete falsification because they didn't know for sure. But yeah, they was basically like, listen, this is what, but made that decision within like, I think it was 2 or 3 days of them searching.
And that probably was just because there's just one-way footprints leading up to the edge of an ice. To be clear on that, he went 200 yards out into the ice. So from the start of land to water, he went 200 yards out into there. But still, he's going. From what I understood, it was like land, and then he walked 200 yards onto the ice to the edge of the ice, and where the water was still.
No, this was frozen over at the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, even think about it, like, even with the way the lakes normally freeze, man, shoot, now I'm trying to think about that. Do they tend to freeze near the shore first? Because it's more shallow? I would assume that's the way it works, but that's why the water underneath of the ice stays encapsulated and doesn't freeze.
We're the Great Lakes state. We should probably know. That's what
I would assume it has to be.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because once the ice reaches a certain capacity, it becomes like an insulator, and that's why the water below it doesn't continue to freeze. So it have to be. So yeah, the further out you go.
That's what I'm saying. I think he walked out on ice for 200 yards, and then he reached a point where it was like starting to get more water, like open water.
True.
And that's where they were like, well, it leads to open water, so obviously he probably fell in the open water.
But even at that, like I'm saying, even if he did, they searched the area, because remember, his footprints ended, and then they from my understanding, swept around that to find the break. Right. So that's why I thought, when I heard that they had swept around it, that it was still frozen ice. Mm-hmm. But again, it would make sense. I could see why that particular sheriff or whoever their supervisor was basically said, hey, put this down, because logically it kind of makes sense. But now let's talk about the bag reappearing. What the French toast is that about? The fact that they searched that area and his backpack and his coat were there, because remember he said he was getting cold in darkness? Mm-hmm. So even if it was hypothermia, what is that called when people just take off their clothing during that? There's a term for that. I'm sure the chat will help us out. But when there's a term for this. When you're basically freezing, you think you're getting really hot, and you start taking all your clothes off.
I think that is. I mean, is it caused by hypothermia, but it's called something else?
It is called something else. Facebook user says, "Oh, look who it is! Oh, look who it is!" And we love you, random citizen. Fair. That is one of the names that they define. Yeah, death. Oh, it's driving me nuts because the minute you say it, or if you're looking it up,
it's called paradoxical undressing.
Thank you so much, Carol.
Thank you, Carol.
Yes. But so even if he took off his coat, okay, why was it not there when the dogs and everybody, the first search team came through, and it just appeared at the end?
Now we're starting to get into like interdimensional stuff. Like he was taken, thrown back.
And time gets weird, right? Just time works different in different dimensions. So maybe even if it was 15 months for us, but he got taken to light years away. If that happened, then time would be entirely different.
Could have just been a little doctor's office checkup. 5-minute doctor's office checkup, but on here on Earth, it was a year and a couple months.
Because I believe he was studying linguistics, which he still got a degree in, but he kind of switched majors after this event and went into writing. What was the name of his book again? I mean, just listen to the title of this book. It was
Meta-Mathematical Foundations of Existence, Godel, Quantum, God, and Beyond. So he was told some secrets. Okay.
Seems to me like
this guy's got some secrets.
Seems to me like the man had a talk with somebody.
Yes, Apollo 11.
Okay, yeah.
It's very interesting.
So, and listen, if you're talking about the idea of paradoxical undressing, as far as the dialogue past stuff, that's what gets interesting in those cases too. Is that, I mean, that is, Chad. If you ever want to do that one deserves a lot of attention. And I'm sorry, but the bullcrap answer they give now, just ridiculous. Because they just finally solved it. I think it was last year, right? Said it was finally solved.
It was solved?
Yeah, it was supposedly like, and it can happen. The winds that come around the mountain range, they can basically, I can't remember the name of the term of it. It can, but it creates frequencies that mess with you. Which perhaps, I mean, maybe, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but some of the things during that happened in that case still don't make sense. Like it was, like they, just spitting shit back out. But wasn't the tent cut from the inside?
Correct.
Like they couldn't get out fast enough, so they just zipped the tent open with a knife.
There were several cuts. There was one very small cut, if I remember correctly, about 3 to 4 inches, to what one would guess is to look out from, and then there was one very big cut. But here's the deal: you have this slashing and mad dash to get out of this tent, and then you walked in a single file, organized route down the path. However, one could argue the snow was so deep. I mean, I think it was something like just above the knee level. You would have to walk.
Yeah,
so you couldn't run. But yeah, that's a whole nother case in and of itself.
And not in Michigan, so we'll have to
not in Michigan.
Maybe we'll just do every state.
Every state.
Episodes.
People can send in. Yeah, if you guys are from another state and you have a mystery, like a story you want us to cover, maybe you can just send it into the private investigators here, Chatty Daddy and Bigwilly. Huh? C and B are on the case.
We'll tackle it. We'll take a look at it and take a look. Right. See.
Get our hot apple cider, some apples.
Oh my God!
Start solving cases.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, I can't make bolts tonight because we're on a case. So.
Yeah, Enzo's saying, as far as the Dyatlov Pass, I'm in the camp of the military beat the crap out of them, thinking they were spies when they got too close to the secret testing area. And, there's some evidence to that. There were 2 people that were former KGB in the group. But I will say this, and where you might be right on that is with the one lady, particular, what was her name? And, Regina, not Regina, it's similar to the name of Regina, but it was a Russian name. Anyways, her tongue, when it's pretty brutal stuff, guys, but her tongue was ripped out of her mouth, which initially, one could say, because they were missing their eyes and everything's like small game, come along and ate that. But they did the test later on, autopsy-wise, and said that no, when her tongue was ripped out, she was alive, because you create this certain secretin that we swallow when our tongues are separated from us while we're alive.
That's interesting.
And it was in her stomach. So they know for a fact she was alive when that happened to her, which would indicate someone was torturing them.
So, yeah, that would make Enzo's idea pretty credible then, sounds like.
Nina? I think her name was Nina.
And didn't they say something about how, there were no extra footprints, like all the footprints were accounted for, so it couldn't have been an outside source. But if you were KGB, that could easily get covered up.
And they didn't find them for months. I mean, months. They didn't even find all of them at once. It took I would think 2 months in total, or 3 months maybe, even to find all the bodies finally. I mean, they were completely buried in there.
Jake's over there losing his lunch.
Yeah. Now, what I will say is, guys, and I paid money when I covered this case a long time ago with Ben and Joe. Matter of fact, Chad, you might have listened to that episode when we had our terrible microphones. Yeah, we had those bad terrible microphones.
That episode, and Toddy Waba just covered it not too long ago.
So I paid some money for this Russian website, guys. This was before things were getting crazy, okay? And I paid money to be able to watch this Russian documentary that wasn't available in America. And there is evidence because you talk about the extra ski pole that was there that was broken and used for a tent and all the other jazz, and then there was the missing reels of film. That documentary had some reels of film.
Really?
So beyond the picture that we all can be argued, was it a person or was it the Bigfoot? You know, but the fact that the note being written, now we know the snowman is real. Nobody ever talks about that enough at the end. Why would you write that in your final moments?
That was in there?
Yeah.
We're giving away too much from this case.
Well, I'm just, listen, maybe we'll... I'm not ruling out the fact, because here's the deal. We can't fully ruin it. It goes further than that, okay? America was running a full-on case called, it was Operation Abominable Snowman. This was a real thing we were doing. In there, it stated that if we went to the Himalayas, we had to turn over any and all information, pictures, cameras, any of that to them when we left. Wow. There is evidence showing that we were developing a weapon, a hypersonic weapon, which would also make sense why the people who were damaged, because a lot of people who died in that incident had a lot of external damage, but no outer damage, right?
Oh, hypersonic damage?
Thank you. Internal damage, but the exterior wasn't as damaged. A hypersonic weapon would start to make sense in that, correct? If I'm not mistaken. So I don't know. I'm just saying. They might have been on a Bigfoot.
Yeah, aren't they working
wrong place, wrong time?
There's like some other weapon too, like a microwave weapon or something that like heats up your body or heats up a specific area.
Well, I mean, they have one that'll just make you vomit and crap your pants. I mean, they have all kinds of stuff. If you hit different frequencies in our body, it's amazing what you can do. Jeez. If you can match the frequency of anything that exists, anything at an atomic level, and you can match that frequency, you will destroy it. It will absolutely be destroyed. And they should be using that for like cancer cells. But hey, let's go chemo routes.
What about the brown note? Isn't there a brown note story about a brown note?
I don't know about that part.
You don't know about the brown note, dude? There's a frequency that makes you fart, makes you poop. It's called the brown, the brown frequency or brown note.
Oh my gosh, Jessica, what's up? We were just talking about Steven Kubacki tonight. What do you think? Because I know that she knows about this case. Miss Jessica has so many notes, handwritten, ladies and gentlemen, handwritten envelopes. I shouldn't say envelopes. I meant to say booklets. What do you call it? Binders.
Binders.
What did we used to use? We used to write stuff on?
Yeah, Jessica, we literally threw this whole episode together in like an hour, so don't hold us to the flame too much.
But yeah, in closing, what do you think, Chad? I mean, do you think the man was abducted? I mean, we haven't given our thoughts on it, I guess. What do you think?
To be honest, I kind of think that the guy just wanted a little vacation.
Yeah?
He got away somehow. But I don't know.
15 months?
That was my initial reaction, but now the more that I've covered it, I don't know, because the whole footprint thing going in one direction and disappearing and then the backpack showing up, I'm starting to point maybe towards like a interdimensional something going on. Maybe something that's not of our normal existence that we're used to. You know? Maybe a different dimension.
Well, and like I said, to me,
yes, it is Enzo.
I think he might have, first of all, genuinely been telling the truth about not being able to remember. When he first came back, and this happens with a lot of, if there are abductees and cases happen, where they don't know what happened. And then things start to come back to them over time. Where it's unique is the fact that some of those experiencers will start to share occasionally to somebody. Somebody. Maybe a wife or whatever the case might be. In his case, no one has been able ever to get the truth out of what really happened that fateful night on the lake. I mean, he just disappeared. Whether it was him choosing to disappear or something took him. And now let's just say he disappeared. Okay, let's go down that route. Mm-hmm. How did the man get back out of there? How stealthily would you have to walk? Did you bring an extra pair of skis with you? Carefully stick your poles, just effort, nonstop in each previous hole that you stuck it into to get back out?
Well, I mean, think about like if you were planning to do this tomorrow. If you were like, okay, I'm going to disappear for 15 months. What do I need to have on me? What do I need to be prepared for this? You would have to have a whole network of people that were ready to take you in, because like, where are you going to sleep? Where are you going to stay? You got to have money you can't just have no money and sleep wherever you want. You'd have to be homeless or something. But the guy, after 15 months, still had $40 in cash on him and like some good clothes and
new pair of kicks and glasses.
Yeah. So it's not like the guy was living on the street for 15 months. He apparently was living somewhere and had some type of plan. So I feel like you would just, I don't know, you'd have to have some type of plan to just disappear for 15 months.
I agree.
So I don't know.
I agree. And I could see wanting to disappear for like, maybe 6 months, maybe even get to the year. And some people are saying that he regretted it. Like once he was like, oh, okay, maybe I messed up.
Yeah.
But why not? Even if he told his parents the truth, I mean, maybe he thought he was going to be in trouble. He wouldn't really be in trouble. His parents legitimately, nobody really would have gotten in trouble because his parents legitimately thought he was missing.
Yeah, maybe not in trouble, but maybe after he saw that they gave him his funeral and stuff, and he was like, okay, I really pushed a little bit too far this time. Like, my parents gave me a funeral.
Yeah, well, in Apollo 11 saying maybe he went to Germany. Now, I could be incorrect on this, but I believe if he went to Germany, they would have had to have had a passport. There would have been tracking on that. So, knowing that the private investigators, how his parents were looking, I'm sure that's something I would have flagged. I would have put up, any transportation in and out of the United States with that name to be brought up and flagged if I was a private investigator. Once again, just saying Chetty Daddy Bigwilly might be out there. We might be PIs one day here.
We might be on the case.
And it still comes back to me, the fact that even if he faked this whole thing, does not explain the coat and the backpack appearing. That, to me, is the one thing that I get hung up on, the fact that he couldn't have, maybe he could have somehow possibly, but he would have had to walk backwards in those tracks all the way, brought an extra pair of ski poles and skis with him to then back, whatever direction, skate back out.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just seems like too much effort, and he wasn't there that we're aware of, unless, was he there? But then you think the dogs would have found him, right? I'm saying, like, what if he was hiding in the woods and he hit his coat, like they weren't there and he hit his coat and stuff out there?
Oh, that's the thing, is they had the dogs out there.
The dogs would have, and the helicopter.
It's wintertime, there's no leaves on the trees, so you should be able to see right through the trees. Dogs would have no issue smelling them out because it's cold, brisk wintertime.
I do think he had an experience. I do think he is personally. I do think he had an experience. Whether he was taken or not, I don't know.
Well, Andy doesn't want to talk about it either. That's kind of sus.
It is a little, and you guys know the rules. Sus. Very sus. Oh, poor Chad's stuck. That's okay, Chad. You keep talking.
I can drink some, I don't know. That stuff's pretty random. It's been sitting there a while.
Oh, you don't want to go that route.
Okay.
But yeah, for me, guys, it's one of the best cases out there that's possibly could remain unsolved for a very, very, very long time. Yep. And it's a good, the great state of Michigan here. Obviously, we're some good old Michigan boys, and why wouldn't we want to cover that story?
I just can't believe we picked the same story. Initially, I was like, you know what? There's got to be some spooky stories of the UP because there is nothing up there. And if there's any kind of like a murder or anything going on up there, it's got to be creepy. So I started looking for that, and then all of a sudden this popped up. And I'm like, oh, I'll go with that one instead.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like creepy here, but like, come on, the UP is like the place. Like, I'm just saying.
What do you mean
just
the place?
It's
like that.
If you're going to be like a killer.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It's the place, man. Those are summer homes.
Yeah, if you guys are looking for a place to disappear to, you want to get away for 15 months.
Yeah. It gets a little weird. I what threw me off was still losing radio stations. I get losing my phone when we went up there, and I wasn't even fully in the UP. I was out on Lakewood Shores. Internet was gone. It's like stepping back in time. The place I was going to. There's still landlines like hooked to the wall because your radio, like you step back in time a little bit to where we're at right now, at least.
I just drove up to Quamanon Falls. It's not really even that out of the tourist. Tourists still go that route up to the falls, but so it's not like I was even west of there where it gets even more remote. But just going up to the falls, you get on this highway where, just like you said, there's no cell phone signal at all. You can't even make a phone call. It's not like you just lose data. You lose everything. There's no way to call. And you don't pass a driveway, a road, anything for like miles. It's just trees and trees and trees and trees. A couple snowmobile trails, more trees. So yeah, that's if you want to disappear. The UP is where it's at. Maybe we should cover some stories that have happened up there.
There is the town that completely disappeared. Whole town of people. There was a whole town of people. I want to say it was like 85 people that just up and disappeared. That gets related to some of the Dogman stuff. So maybe, dude, that should be, right? Even though we shouldn't have the right to own the Dogman. I don't even know why that got started, all because of that song we played for you last weekend.
Michigan Dogman.
Because realistically, Dogman has been going on for centuries. That dates back to like Egyptian era stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we need to cover that then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes, Posky, I will take you to the UP. We should just load up and go up there sometime. Let's see. What's up, all you lovely people? Posky just finally makes it in at the end of the show. Thanks for hanging out with us, Posky. But yeah, if you guys have any other suggestions for other cases, maybe different states from, some cases from where you're from, just let us know. But Chad, can I get the channel in trouble from the chat? Spooky, I don't know the way that you're oh my god, and then this pops up as soon as he got done saying that. As soon as you said that, we got a troll. Spooky. That's kind of
coincidence. Funny. I think not.
It's pretty sus. It's pretty sus. Fake drink.
But yeah, I do believe final opinion is at very least Portals. He had some sort of experience that deeply influenced his writing in that book. Maybe I should just get his book. That's what I should do. And just go through that very dense material, because I feel like it's going to be so dense. I'm going to be like, whoa. Yep.
Well, that's what Apollo 11 was saying, is that the most crazy thing about this whole thing is his book. So maybe we just need to get a hold of that thing and read it.
Maybe we contact him just to talk about the book. Like, we'd like to interview you about your book, sir.
Yeah, get him on here. He'd be like, oh, really? My book?
I would love to talk. I would
You've
talk
never heard about me disappearing? Hell no. What do you mean you disappeared?
You disappeared? Well, why don't you
tell us you get into that while you're here?
While you're here. Yeah. Man. But yeah. Yeah, so one last time, guys. If you want to send it, you know the deal. Send it over to Chad. Maybe we'll cover some ones if you guys want.
Yeah, after the show, put your ideas in the comment section. And we'll cover them on another future show if we keep this up.
Yeah. Keep an eye out for the old odd house network there.
Oh.
We're still timelines to be determined, but just saying, there are some times.
To be determined. It'll be here eventually. Okay.
Spooky. I love you guys.
Oh Jesus, Spooky Morales.
See, it's about the 1 hour. It's about the 1 hour marker when the chat starts getting a little.
Oh yeah.
When they can't contain themselves anymore.
Yeah, that's when Jake starts going crazy. Jake Smith. Thanks, Sarah. Appreciate that. We tried.
Zach said they disappeared once.
Just once, though.
Just once. Well, once. So he said. I disappeared once.
Spooky has been a rebel lately, Jeanette Sanchez. Where did he learn to be like that? All right. Yeah. Big Willie, you ready?
Yeah, brother. Thanks for having me on tonight. I'm glad you hit me up. It was definitely kind of thrown together for you guys. So maybe we'll have a little more time with the next one. We'll get a little more, some more slides to go with it. I think you did a great job with the slides, though, man. That was great. Really good.
Yeah, not too bad. Should give me a whole week, and I can really maybe knock some stuff out here.
Heck yeah.
But I think that's all. I don't think we're going to have a show Tuesday. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. I don't know what's going on yet. Let us know if you have any ideas, but we have nobody scheduled right now. But maybe we'll just have a pop-up stream and say hi to everybody and see what's going on.
Heck yeah.
And Smut Stuff is probably canceled for the time being until we can find another platform to go on, because we keep getting shut down every time we try one of those shows out. So keep an eye out for that. We'll let you know if we find a new home for Smut Stuff. And Willie doesn't have anything else. I guess we'll close her on out.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Peace out, guys. Love you. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.
It sound right, boys.